Should you build a mobile app? Part 2. In part 1, I talked about a bunch of things to consider before you pick between a web app and a mobile app, but there are more things to talk about, so let's get into it. When building a web app, one of the things you have to decide is what is the companion experience your users need on mobile, and will you be able to provide that on the mobile browser? You gotta assume that for some portion of your audience, the first impression about your product is going to happen on the phone. Whether your users find out about your product through word of mouth or influencers or content marketing or communities, chances are that some number of them will discover this on mobile rather than laptop, and hence will have the first impression about your brand on the phone. Next, you got to ask yourself, where are your users most likely going to be and what are they likely to be doing when they discover your product? This would now answer the first question of what percentage of your users will run into it on the phone versus the laptop. For example, if your product is more likely to be discovered while at work, then chances are that many of your users might actually discover it more on the laptop than on the phone. Another area of consideration is to think about the type of habits you want your users to form while using your product. Is it a daily use product? Is it a weekly use product? What kind of triggers exist where your product can be remembered and used again? And how can you implement those triggers? It's often easier to form habits with notifications as a mobile app than a web app. Traditionally, web apps relied on email in order to form habits, but increasingly, email is a losing battle. Yet another area to consider is what kind of resources does your app need to function? For example, does it need a camera? A camera is always better accessed through a native mobile app than it is through a browser. If you need resources that are lower in the stack in the operating system, then you're better off with a native mobile app. For example, you need the camera, you need audio, you need background processing. These are all things that indicate that it's going to be tougher to pull off with a browser app. Next, does your app require payments and how will your users pay? If you had a mobile app, are you willing to pay 30% of your revenues to Apple or Google? Because that's the best possible user experience you can offer inside an app. I've covered a lot of things, and some of these will be more important to your product in order to consider what you're building, and some others may not be. So you really have to sit down and make a list of things and figure out where you fit in. We've built mobile apps that have been used by over 80 million people. We've been featured on the App Store and Google Play. We've also built web apps. And this topic came from the founders community. I plan on covering more of these. Do join if you have your topics that you'd like me to cover. Next in the series, I will cover what to think about when launching on the App Store.